To solve the problem of arrogant generals hoarding military power, the emperor deliberately pretended to look deeply worried in front of the generals. This was because back then, during the Qinqiao mutiny, they had forcibly placed the imperial robe on him. Now, although he sat on the dragon throne and had rewarded them with high ranks and titles, if one day their subordinates also desired wealth and power, and followed the example of the Qinqiao mutiny by placing the imperial robe on them, how could they resist the temptation and avoid raising troops to rebel? As soon as these words were spoken, the generals were so frightened that they all swore loyalty to the emperor. The emperor then took this opportunity to propose that they hand over their military power. In return, he would generously reward them and let them return home to enjoy their retirement. In this way, he not only reclaimed the military power of these over-meritorious veteran generals, but also avoided being criticized for killing loyal ministers after using them. However, the reason the emperor was able to come up with the brilliant strategy of releasing military power over a cup of wine was largely thanks to a modern young man who was blind in both eyes and did not even know he had traveled back to ancient times. 3 days earlier, a modern jeep had suddenly fallen from the sky inside the imperial palace. Its jet black, mirror-smooth metal body made the emperor and others feel fearful. What shocked them even more was the strangely dressed young man inside the vehicle. After realizing the young man came from 1000 years in the future, the prime minister immediately suggested bringing him back to the palace to recover. Once he woke up, by observing his words and actions, they might even glimpse the future. The emperor worried that if the young man learned he was in a different era, he might develop dangerous intentions, so he ordered the news to be sealed and had his own daughter personally take care of him. Not long after, the young man woke up from his coma, but due to a head injury, blood clots blocked his eyes, causing temporary blindness. When the emperor heard this, he hurried over at once. From the young man's words, he learned that the young man was a history teacher, traveling to Zayajayago village for volunteer teaching. He had been caught in a mudslide on the way and ended up here. To prevent him from learning the truth, the emperor lied and said he was the village chief of Zayajayago. As for the car, phone, and other modern items the young man mentioned, the emperor brushed them off by saying they were destroyed in the mudslide. At the same time, to calm the young man, he specifically ordered imperial physicians to treat his eyes. After learning that the young man would regain his sight within less than a month, the emperor used casual conversation as an excuse to ask the young man to explain history to them. At present, although he had become emperor and held absolute power over the court, his generals each hoarded their own troops and showed no loyalty as proper subjects. Moreover, they were all meritorious officials from the Qinqiao mutiny. On the surface, he absolutely could not act against them, so he asked the young man about the history after the Qinqiao mutiny. Following the young man's detailed explanation of the releasing military power over a cup of wine strategy, the emperor repeated every word to his generals. This allowed him, without using a single soldier, to make them all hand over their military power. However, this news quickly reached Prince Jing. It must be known that these generals were very close to him. The emperor's actions were not only weakening his power, but also intended to defy the late Empress Dowager's will and pass the throne to his own son. Realizing that all of this was very likely connected to the strategist the emperor was hiding in the palace, Prince Jing immediately sent his personal eunuch to try to win this man over. If he could not be used, they were prepared to kill him to silence him. At the same time, on the other side, the emperor indeed had no intention of following the Empress Dowager's will to pass the throne to Prince Jin. This was because Prince Jin was narrow-minded and naturally warlike. If he were to rule the empire, there would surely be endless wars, and even the emperor's own descendants would not escape suppression. Thus, the thought arose in his mind to appoint his eldest son as crown prince. However, although his eldest son was kind-hearted, he lacked the decisiveness and ruthlessness an emperor should possess. To be safe, he decided to test the young man again and see who the future history books recorded as the successor to his throne. Unexpectedly, he learned from the young man that the emperor of Zhao never managed to decide on an heir, even on his deathbed.
他不是有个仁厚的大儿子吗？皇位没传给他吗？
啊，你是说他那个大儿子赵秦啊？他没当皇帝，29岁就死了。
什么？死了？